Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about the new James Wan film, Malignant.
When I was young, something happened to me.
Stop saying that.
Maddie, who are you talking to?
Gabriel.
Is he your imaginary friend?
Real quick before we get into this, if you can do me a favor and hit that like button, because that really does help this channel out so much. Alright, so this movie completely blindsided me. Because it starts out and I'm thinking, you know, James Wan. I've seen James Wan films before. I'm thinking The Conjuring and things like that. And just based off the trailer of this film, it looks like it's going to be something along those lines. Maybe a little different, but something along those lines. And then as you start to get into this and it starts to unpack, you realize, holy shit, you're in for a completely different kind of movie. Like nothing we've ever seen from James Wan before. This movie is wild as fuck. It is extremely gory, very, very, very bloody, gory, like just brutal kills throughout the whole movie. But the big thing is the tone of this. This movie is very much a throwback to the 80s, to the 90s, like that era of horror, especially late 80s, early 90s. There's a lot of camp that is intentional in this. It definitely feels like a movie where James Wan has made his money. He's made these huge blockbusters, and now he's finally like to the studios, guys, I'm gonna make whatever the fuck I want to make. And they're like, well, you're James Wan, dude, so here's the keys to the kingdom. You can make anything you feel like making. And that's what he did. Because the creative choices in this are wild, just absolutely wild. There's a lot of stuff that reminded me of giallo films. To me, in so many ways, this was like a love story to horror movies in general, to the genre as a whole. The stuff, like I said, from the 80s and the 90s, maybe even the early 2000s, but definitely giallo and 70s stuff with the overly gory stuff. There was actually parts in this movie where I laughed out loud just because of how ludicrous they were and how just unrealistic they were. But everything feels like that's intentional. The dialogue is intentionally meant to be that way. The way we grew up watching movies, the way stuff was when James Wan was growing up, because that's what this feels like. This feels like him writing a horror love letter to the movies he loved and appreciated growing up.
I'm seeing things. I'm seeing murders as they're happening.
And me personally, I am so there for that. I absolutely loved this movie. I absolutely adore it and all of its ridiculousness. There were so many holes and plot twists that don't really make sense. But like I said, everything feels intentional. It feels like it's intentionally meant to be that way, just like the movies we watched growing up, where we weren't critics. We just went into them to have a good time and have fun. I think that's exactly what this movie is. I had an absolute blast with it. It's one of the more fun movies I've seen in quite a while. But if you take this movie serious, you're going to have so many issues with it. You're going to find so many flaws, so many just choices that you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You're going to remember something and be like, that doesn't really add up there. Or why didn't she do this? There's that kind of stuff all throughout this movie. But I personally feel like that was intentional. Like I said, it very much feels like it's from another era.
He wants to talk to you.
Not like this stuff now where everything has to be hyper real. This doesn't feel like that at all. In a lot of ways, this feels like a fantasy, a dream, where things don't always make sense and don't always add up. There's just a lot of stuff about this like that I really enjoyed. I had a blast with. The other thing is, this movie looks incredible. The CGI that's used is breathtaking. There are so many scenes that are just extremely creative, the way they choose to do things, and how just these strange thing I can't even say without spoiling, but the main antagonist and the way this creature, person, whatever you want to call it, this entity, the way it looks, it's just very different. And once again, a choice that I don't know if everybody's gonna love, but for me, I loved it. I thought it was very creative and unique and something I had never seen anyone do before, and so I love that. This movie has a lot of really unique things about it, even though in a lot of ways it's calling back to stuff from a different era. It still had a lot of unique twists and things that were done that were very fresh and very new and just one of a kind. But this is definitely a movie that I do not expect a lot of people to get or enjoy. I think because of the kind of movies we have now and a younger generation that watches movies now, I think a lot of people are going to shit on this movie. I'm hoping that people that grew up from the 80s and 90s, or at least love and appreciate that kind of movie, will see what he was trying to do here and enjoy this.
He's getting closer.
It definitely caught me off guard, but once I realized what was happening and just let myself go and enjoy what I was watching, I had an absolute blast. But it definitely caught me way off guard. Not like anything I really expected at all. This movie is absolutely fucking wild, but I thought it was a great time. The other thing I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed in this movie is that it's not very scary. And James Wan's known for really setting up these situations that scare the shit out of you with mood and lighting and all these things. And for whatever reason, I think it's because of the campy kind of quality of this movie. It's not very scary. That's really kind of not what this movie is trying to do so much. Just the overall mood and energy of this movie is just bizarre and definitely, like I said, a throwback. But because of that, it isn't extremely scary. There are some scenes, but for the most part, I wouldn't consider this to be a scary movie at all. It's much more of a weird, entertaining, fun kind of situation that's not played for scares. So even though I enjoyed the hell out of this movie, I'm not so sure that I recommend going and spending a bunch of money to see it in theaters, especially with the pandemic still going on. I don't know, the fact that it's on HBO, that might be a better choice for most people. But if everything I was talking about sounds like things that you're into, by all means, man, go see it in theaters, because if you're into that type of stuff, I think you'll have a blast like I did with it. So that's going to do it for me today, guys. Please leave your comments down below. I love hearing from you guys, and I would love to hear if you've seen this, what you thought of it, or if you plan to watch it this weekend or whatever. And also, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to my patrons, because you guys, your support seriously means so much to me. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.